Hey, how's it going? It's Wednesday. It's cold. Got my jacket on. So today we are going to read that article about the brain. Hopefully, yesterday, with watching the two videos, you're going to have a kind of a basic understanding of the brain. And like I said yesterday, the last 5 minutes of that video we watched went way more in depth than what we're going to read here. So, not too bad, hopefully. All this is available on Google Classroom, all the text if you want to reread it. But luckily, I'll read it to you. You don't have to reread it. Just follow along as I read a whole bunch of the stuff here for the book. Now, you might hear this a couple times, this performance-based assessment. That is coming up in a few weeks. It's another writing assessment, not right now. But the question is, in what different ways can people be intelligent? And the reason we're studying those 9 different intelligences, we'll talk about them again tomorrow, is to help you write that prompt. So, like I said, I'm going to ask you to do one of two things. Either write 3 of the intelligences, prove that you're good at those based on evidence that you just tell us. It's hard to research about yourself. Or maybe like pick 2 that you're good at and 1 that you need to improve on. We're not there yet. We're still learning. But I will have a essay to share with you at some point. This is either before winter break or after we come back from winter break. So lots of work to do before then, but just kind of put that in the back of your mind, put that in your subconscious, kind of just let it sit there for a little while. All right, make this bigger. There is a Google form that goes with this, and you'll be able to see some of these things. Unit goals, talk about that later. But the academic vocabulary, yeah, you've already seen these, and hopefully you're working on that study guide. There will be a quiz available tomorrow, due next Friday. All right, so let's start reading here. We got the human brain. This selection is an example of an informative text. Now that's in bold. You may not know what that is. You might know, but right after it, they put the definition. What is an informative text? It's a type of writing in which an author presents facts and details. This is the type of writing you will develop in the performance-based assessment at the end of the unit, that thing we just talked about. As you read, look at the way ideas are introduced, facts and details are presented. Mark the text to help you determine key ideas and details. Well, it's going to be difficult to mark the text, but if you really want to take notes on it, that's not a bad idea. Feel free to grab a piece of paper and write down some of the notes here. The famous scientist, James Watson, I don't think any relation, summarized it this way. The brain boggles the mind. The human brain is truly impressive. It weighs only about 3 pounds, but controls everything a person does, ever has done, or ever will do, physically, intellectually, and emotionally. No computer even comes close to having the brain's abilities. We're right here. The brain controls a person's actions, reactions, and survival functions such as breathing. It also has the ability to think, remember, process information, and learn new things. The one part of the brain, the brain is one part of the central nervous system. That came up in our video a little bit yesterday. It's 2 things. The system that controls all the body's activities. The central nervous system is made up of the brain and the spinal cord. The brain is protected by the skull, and the spinal cord runs through the vertebrae of the back. Just in case you're not familiar with what vertebrae are, they tell you right there. It's the bones that make up the spine. The spinal cord transmits messages between the brain and other parts of the body through nerve cells called neurons. What are neurons? They transmit messages through nerve cells. If a person decides to pick up a book from the shelf, a voluntary action, the brain sends that message to the arm and hand through the spinal cord. And if a person touches a hot surface and burns his or her hand, an involuntary action, the nerve cells in the hand send a pain message to the brain through the spinal cord. A constant stream of messages travels through the neurons in the spinal cord at speeds of more than 150 miles per hour. The human brain never stops working, even when a person is asleep. As well as transmitting messages through the spinal cord, neurons transmit messages from one part of the brain to the other. There are approximately 85 billion of these cells in the brain alone. Neurons send messages through tiny branch-like structures that connect the other neurons in different parts of the brain, as well as other parts of the body. Got another vocabulary word coming up. The points where neurons meet and transmit information to each other, called synapses. Each neuron may be connected, to as many as 10,000 other neurons, resulting in more than 100 trillion synapses in a single brain. Although a person cannot increase the amount of neurons in his or her brain, learning new things increases the number of synapse connections between them. Learning and education actually change the structure of the brain. All right, good deal that you went to school today, I guess. That structure changes every time a person learns, every time that person has a new thought or memory. The more a person learns, the more there is to think about. The more there is to think about, the more there is to remember. As a result, the connections between neurons get stronger and the brain is able to function more effectively. It processes, thinks, analyzes, and stores information more quickly and productively than it did before these connections were made. Neurons are just cells, and everything a person knows is the result of the connections between them. Almost done. Just one paragraph here. But I think, based on what we just read, it's probably a good idea to keep learning things. So you're in the right spot. All right, almost done here. Then we'll talk a little bit about the old study guide. Not study guide. Google form. Last little paragraph here. Scientists have gained a wealth of knowledge about the human brain, but this is what we talked about yesterday right here. Like, the summary of this paragraph is scientists know a lot, but they still have a lot to learn. Scientists have gained a wealth of knowledge about the human brain, but there is a lot they do not yet understand. The neurologist Santiago Ramon y Cayal, for example, compares the brain to a world of unexplored continents with great stretches of unknown territory. Even so, new discoveries continually increase our knowledge of how the brain functions and how people learn. All right, we are not doing this word network. We have the study guide, so that's not something you have to worry about. In the study guide, though, there will be a part where I'm asking you to write a summary. Looks like 5-paragraph summary again. This was tough. This is a tough one. It's like full of a lot of information. It would be helpful if you read it over again. I know most people are like, well, I don't even want to read it once. I get it. But it's pretty dense. There's a lot of information in there. So yeah, take some time. The study guide is available. Take some time, study for the quiz. Second quarter grades will be starting to come in. There is a little problem between the semester percentages and the quarter percentages. Not all of those grades exactly line up. They will. I know that Mr. Wilson, our principal, is working on that. And of course, if you have any questions, answers, let me know.